Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Crisis Point. My name's Ryan. Today I'm here with Ben
Hello.
and Shane.
Hello, hello.
So, we have got a lot to talk about this episode because you two guys went to the Everwinter MCP tournament and absolutely dominated over there. But before we get into that, we've got some other stuff to talk about.
There's quite a
Yeah,
few things.
there's quite a few things. Things are moving very, very fast in the world of Marvel Crisis Protocol right now, with the changes to the extracts and secures and everything going on there. New characters getting announced like Rhino, who we're going to be talking about soon here.
Malekith got nerfed, and we haven't
Malekith
even
got nerfed. We haven't
even
even had
thought
a
about
chance to
that.
talk about that yet. Yeah, I almost forgot about it because so much other stuff is happening right now.
The world is spinning, guys. Woo, it's moving.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm so excited for this game right now. Gosh, all right. So we're just gonna ignore everything I just said and go into Splash Mountain, I guess, just
Splash
to get it out of the
Mountain.
way.
Splash Mountain takes precedence.
Yeah,
It's why people are here. Splash
It's-
Mountain. Give them
it's
what they want.
it's what the people want. I'm gonna give them what they want. All
Run
right.
from
So I'm just dread it. Run from it. Splash Mountain still arrives. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and spin the wheel here.
Yep. Last week was Captain Marvel, by the way, guys. Captain Marvel.
Spin the wheel of splashness.
Oh boy.
Okay. So this is pretty
Well-
interesting. We've got Jean Grey.
Oh, man, we are really knocking out the bad characters.
let's poor Gene.
All right,
Oh.
let me pull up this travesty
Easily.
of a card.
Easily top 120 character, if you ask me.
Easy,
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah,
Just totally.
it's top 120, but it's an auto include in the top 120 for sure.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
there's
oh,
no
yeah,
doubt
easy.
about it.
Easy. Gotta make room in everybody's top 120, right?
So, I mean, Ben, you have the most experience with Jean Grey. Do you want to go over her card a little bit?
Yeah, I have had the quote unquote pleasure of playing Jean a couple of times. Jean is a 5 threat model with 6 health, medium move, size 2. She's a 3/4/5 defense, so 3 physical, 4 energy, 5 mystical. Her builder is a range 4/5 dice mystic psionic bolt. Very typical. She gains power equal to damage dealt and has a wild sap, which is nice. That's right there. Not so bad, guys. Right? We're living the dream. We can work with that.
That's Nova's builder. That's what I
Right.
like.
Yeah, 5 threat, that's okay. We can live that. We can live the dream. Then we start getting into some wonky stuff. She's got a 6 cost spender. Range 3. You gotta love the 6 cost. Gotta love it. Range 3, 9 dice, physical, telekinetic force. Before damage is dealt, she can target. If the target was size 4 or less, she can throw the target character away small. Not terrible, and it's got a wild explosion. For 6 cost, little rough around the edges. She's got a 3 cost superpower called Battlefield Manipulation. She has it's basically a size 4 terrain throw that is within terrain within range 3, and she can throw it medium.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. We're not bad. Then we've got an interesting superpower called Matter Transmutation. Is also a 3 cost. Choose another character with an activation token within range 2 and push it small. A character can only be moved by this superpower only once per turn. Really interesting. There are several superpowers that are kind of like this, but not as restrictive. And then she's got a 2 cost reactive power called Shield Mine that whenever this character or an allied character within range 4 would be advanced, placed, or pushed by effects of an enemy mystical attack or enemy superpower, you may use this superpower. The allied character is not advanced, placed, or pushed. That's my favorite thing about her on
Yeah.
this card. And then she has latent psionic potential or psychic potential. She gains 2 power during the power phase, and she has flight. So
And,
If
she does get an extra health on her flip side, but I think that's the only change.
Yeah, yep, you're right. That's the only thing that that changes on her flip side. If you don't mind, I'll go with my splash.
Okay.
I have tried to make her work in lots of places. I like Jean Grey, as many of our fans will know. I'm a big mutant guy. Love the mutants. Love me some X-Men. Love Weapon X. Papa Mags and the Brotherhood. Um, and that's where I've put her. I have put Jean in the Brotherhood. Um, Mainly for that shield mind. One of the biggest problems for Brotherhood in the past, well, still a problem to this day, is moving Magneto around when he doesn't want to get moved around. And you only have one Indomitable, so Shield Mind does help against a couple of things. Um, I'm gonna be honest, guys. She loves extra power. So, pro tip: put her where she can get some extra power. Um, she's hard to splash. 5 threat model that is kind of difficult. So, but I've put her in Brotherhood and had some fun helping Magneto out a little bit. But um, I don't have a whole bunch to say about it.
Cool. I've got one, Ryan, unless you'd like to go first, unless you got
Um,
something.
I guess, yeah, I think I can go first with this one. Well, I guess second. So honestly, I think I kind of like the idea of splashing her into Sam Avengers, and that's just because with that particular team and like the basically what you see most of the time, the only real like mystic uh like stuff going on is with like voodoo really.
Hmm.
So I mean, I feel like there's space for her there. The fact that she's 5 is like really it's really difficult to like justify swapping her in for somebody else. But that what is it? Not the shield mind. The no, yes, it is the shield mind. That ability by itself, like I'm just imagining putting that on like Hulk or somebody and just making him just unmovable.
Yeah.
And I think that could be really good on some of the certain secures. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got. That's my thought on Jean Grey.
Cool. So I got one. I think she could be kind of interesting in Guardians of the Galaxy, maybe.
Okay.
Guardians has a really cheap core. You can literally have a 7 point core with 3 characters.
Hmm.
So they're a team that is really easily able to splash high threat characters without risking going like tall. They can keep their wider shape while taking some of these more expensive characters. Um, and they don't have like some of the characters thinking specifically like Rocket and Groot and stuff. Um, are not really characters that have great action economy, and like Drax as well. Obviously Gamora's quite fast and Star Lord has hit and run, but like Rocket, Groot, Drax, characters like that are all characters that could, that don't love getting displaced, especially the what I'm thinking of in particular is like Rocket and Groot getting separated because one of them gets pushed away from each other and then the
Right.
bodyguard's gone. Um, and on top of that, matter transmutation is a better ability, I think, on a wider team, which is
Mm.
harder to do with Jean because she's a 5 threat. On most teams, you can't really run a wider team with Jean, because they just don't have that cheap core that Guardians has. But like I picture Jean like on Guardians, activating later in the round and kind of like if she has some power, she can rearrange parts of the board. And then on top of it all, the winging it tokens can help her kind of fish for those saps, build up power a little bit more, do a little bit more damage with her builder. And I like it. And then she's got a big old throw, so she can like help a little bit with that attrition plan, even though she is kind of more of a like support piece for the other attrition models, of which Guardians have quite a few. And
Hmm.
that's kind of where I'm sitting with Gene.
Checks
And
out.
yeah, I like that one actually. I think that's one of my better ones on this series.
I like it.
I'm almost convincing myself.
I know. Like I'm looking at her.
Don't do it.
I'm
Don't do
I'm
it.
I feel like no, I definitely shouldn't, but there's worse characters out there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know who has
Well,
Andrew has Gene because I got him to split the Cassandra
oh
Nova Jean
yeah,
Grey box. So there you go, Andrew. And I think he has Guardians because he bought him at the last tournament. So this
there
is
you go,
for
Oh,
you,
look
Andrew.
at
Andrew.
that.
I
There you
know
go.
you're listening.
Don't worry, Andrew. He's setting you up. Don't worry. Just run away.
Is this what copium feels like? Like what is
I love it. Love it.
All right, so that's Jean Grey for you on Splash Mountain. Moving along here, Rhino was just put up in the from panel to
Oh,
play today. Yeah, I know.
it's
Uh,
okay, Shane. It's okay. Breathe.
as
Breathe.
as you guys all know, Shane is kind of like the Spider Foes guy right now. So I'm just gonna hand the mic over to you, and you can tell us all about Rhino and why you think he's really good.
Oh man, I'm so excited for this character. So where do I start? First of all, Rhino is, like I said, like I predicted, he's a 4 threat. He's got that size 4 on the big base, the biggest base there is. He moves short, of course. He's got 7 health on his healthy side and 6 health, I believe, on his injured sides for a total of 13, which is quite good. His defensive stats don't look great. 332. It doesn't sound good, but bear with me here because it really doesn't matter. Um, he has he's got one attack on his card. Only the one, just the single attack. It's called Gore. It's range 3, damage 5, strength 5. Obviously it's a 0 cost and it is a builder, so you damage gain power equal to damage dealt. But before damage dealt, you get to place Rhino within 1 of the target character. So he is going to be very fast. A place 1 from range 3 away on a big base character, I mean, that alone is a lot of free movement, like a ton of
Mm.
free movement. That's bonkers. I mean, I don't even know how to like iterate how much movement that is. It's a lot. Okay, so its first superpower is called Stampede. It is 3 power cost. You push him medium. Medium on a large base is a lot of distance. It does not stop its movement if it contacts a size 2 or smaller interactive terrain feature. Instead, it gets destroyed, and then he continues being pushed. And then the next time it makes a gore attack this turn, you add 2 dice to the attack roll. So that gore becomes a 7 dice attack. And you can only do Stampede once per turn. So this is obviously similar to Nothing Stops the Juggernaut, except with a few caveats. First of all, you can only do it once per turn. It adds, this is the thing that adds dice to your attack rather than a move. And it only destroys terrain that he goes through size 2 or smaller. And then the last thing is it doesn't do damage to somebody it bumps into. Now you have to keep in mind this is a 4 threat character, so it's not going to be exactly like Juggernaut. So there's going to be a lot of comparisons made here, and there are being, there are a lot of comparisons being made, and I just want people to, pump the brakes a little bit when you're directly comparing the characters because it's easy to forget. Um, his next power is nobody ever accused the Rhino of good manners. That's a mouthful. It costs 3 power. It's a terrain throw, size 4 or less than 2. It throws medium. This is something that spider foes do not have. Um, and by the way, he's syndicate as well. But who cares, right? I mean, let's be honest. I think this model would probably get played in syndicate, even if he wasn't. I think he's going to be really good there under Kingpin.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're talking about foes, right? So uh, he has a medium throw for size 4 terrain. That's very good. Foes didn't have that before. I'm really happy to see that. And the fact that he only has the one attack, his offensive capability is not super gimped by that because he has this awesome terrain throw, which is going to be really good for killing things. And then he has 3 passive powers. This is cool. He's got aggressive. So when you hit him and do damage to him, he can advance short towards you. So again, there's more movement. He has ornery. So when he takes damage from an enemy or allied effect after it's resolved, if he's not dazed, he gains a power. So this is really good for his power generation. Um, There's a lot of ways to trigger this as far as allied effects go. Just as like a quick go over, like Neogenic Recombinator is one way. If you're playing Mr. Sinister for some reason, he has a tactic card for it. If you hit him with a beam, like a friendly beam, he'll take a damage and gain a power. Um, there's other ones too that are escaping me right now, but like Baron Mordo can do a damage to him and give him extra dice on his gore, which is pretty cool, and then he gets a power from it. Pretty awesome stuff. I like that a lot. He's going to generate power really well. And then he's got Rhino Hide to cap it off. So basically, it's damage reduction to a minimum of 1 by 1. He is very tanky. So I mentioned earlier that the defensive stats don't really matter, like the 332. That's because he has 7 health and damage reduction. That is way more important than having 4 defense. I'm just gonna put that out there now. That is a huge deal.
Hmm.
And his injured side is the same, except he has 1 less health. So I cannot get over how fast this character is. I think like being able to move short and then have a range 3 attack on a big base, um, and then hit them, and then maybe you do 2 damage and you go up to 3 power, and you first of all you place behind them within 1, which is like a million miles away, and then you push your big giant base medium like past them, and then you have another action maybe, and then you attack somebody else within range 3 and place behind them. You've just cleared the whole board. And like I've already like mapped out like for for somebody that's curious about what the threat range is. Like let's say like he doesn't have a spender, but let's say like he has like a pseudo spender, which is you spend 3 power on Stampede, you push yourself medium, and then you gore for 7 dice, and then you get a place. Um, Imagine that as a spender for a moment. The threat range of that before you do the medium push is longer than a 5 and a 2 together. Like a range 5 and a range 2 together is shorter than this threat range.
Bruh.
That is absolutely bonkers. It's also very easy. Like, let's say you're playing on like a D shape, which is known for being like the most spread out shape. It does not take a lot to line up for Rhino to be able to hit 3 of the D shape objectives in one activation. Like, so if you're playing on extremis consoles and he starts on one of the consoles in the right spot, he can like interact, heal himself, and then maybe hit somebody that's just far enough away that he can place behind them and get on another console, heal himself again, and then maybe he has power to push himself and then attack again and jump onto another console and heal himself on that one. Like it, this character is crazy. I know his attacks, like his one attack, it looks underwhelming and he doesn't have any like displacement,
Yeah.
but he's going to be a nightmare just running around the board. My like what I really want to do is because he's a big base, you can deploy him if you're playing on hammers, you can deploy him in front of a hammer, pick up a hammer before you move. And
Hmm.
then like if the argument against Rhino is to like ignore him and not attack him because he doesn't hit that hard and he doesn't move you. Like give him a hammer and he just runs all over the place. He's throwing out 6 and 8 dice attacks all game, and he's holding an objective too. So it's like you have to deal with him. You have to attack him eventually if this is the case. And not a lot of characters can displace Rhino. And even if you do, it's almost like the Juggernaut effect where
Hmm.
displacing Juggernaut feels like a waste of time because of how absurdly fast he is and how fast he can get back in. And I think Rhino's going to have that same thing. Um, I've been seeing some people like saying that they're not sold on him or anything. I think this character is amazing. So, and he's going in my roster, and I'm really excited to play him, and I can't wait to like get him on the table.
I just auto slapped him in. Just boom, showed up. Boom, let's do it.
Yeah, and I also think like at first I was saying like I don't think you should splash him anywhere, but like throughout the day I've been thinking about Rhino all day since they announced him. Throughout the day, it's been like, oh my god, I think he'd be really cool in Midnight Suns because of the place. I think he'd be pretty interesting in Web Warriors because of just how fast he is and like his ability to bounce around D shapes, which they love. He obviously Steve Avengers would be pretty interesting with the 2 power stampede.
Hmm.
Um, he's not a splash there, but Kingpin Syndicate is gonna love this guy. I think foes are gonna love this guy. This character is really interesting. Like you could put him in think about putting him in Dark Dimension,
Yeah.
where he's gonna like the power gen, but then like if he has too much power and he takes damage, he gains another power for that because of
Right.
ornery.
Right.
Um, Rhino is so cool, and I'm really high on him. So that is
We couldn't tell.
if anybody else has thoughts on Rhino, you guys can talk now because I'm just gonna shut up for a second.
Yeah, so I guess I'll go. The the fact that like it looks like well, it looks like when he stampedes and gores, he's only going to be rolling 7 dice. Is leaves something to be desired, but I think you're right. It absolutely all of his crazy movement and everything, and his deceptive defensive capabilities, I guess we'll say, more than make up for like his lack of lethality.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, he looks like a beast.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing. There, I was saying this earlier to you, Ben. I think there's gonna be a point in games, like if especially on the more like less wide crises where they're more like close together. Like there's gonna be games where like turn two onward, you never even have to make a move action with this guy because the
Right.
movement he's getting from his attacks
Right.
is just enough to move him around the board. So you're just double attacking all game. And if you're playing on hammers, all of a sudden he is pretty lethal.
Yeah.
And then those 5 and 7 dice attacks are now 6 and 8 dice attacks. And on top of that, maybe he does a few maybe he does 2 damage to you, and then all of a sudden he teleports next to you, next to a size 4 piece of terrain, and he throws that at you. So I think he can hit pretty
Yeah,
hard.
he can get up there, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
It's been really funny for me. One to be getting Rhino texts all day. You know, hey, did you know that Rhino could do this? And what about this? And what about that? And I was like, I wonder if Shane is really excited about this character. Um, it's been super fun. One to see Shane so really excited about a character, but no, I wholeheartedly agree. I think it's been very odd that a couple people have been, poo pooing on Rhino when we have seen the effects of a minor juggernaut, right? I mean, that's all he is just a mini juggernaut, and I think that's adorable. Shane and I were talking just a little bit earlier of how hilarious it would be to throw Juggernaut and Rhino on the same board in Brotherhood. Just cause. Is it great? Who knows? But it would be hilarious.
I think it would be
Uh,
great.
it'd be real fun
It
and
wouldn't be
funny.
bad.
It wouldn't be bad. And Magneto helps out. Good. Everybody. So it's really neat. I think it's cool. I think they've really hit the nail on the head with Rhino's design. So I give a lot of credit to AMG and what they're doing with Rhino, and now we are just joyfully anticipating tactic cards, the 3 tactic cards that are becoming in
Yeah,
this box.
that's what I
So,
was gonna get to next because one thing that I noticed about this card is the wording on Stampede specifically says the next time it makes a gore attack this turn, add 2 dice to the attack roll, and
Oh.
gore is the only attack on this card, which leads me to
Uh-huh.
believe there's probably an attack on one of those team tactics cards for Rhino.
Very
Um,
interesting.
yeah. So if there's like an attack with like some kind of displacement, like a throw or a push, wouldn't be the worst thing.
hmm
Um, and then honestly, the last thing I want to say about Rhino before we move on is I kind of talked about like the Juggernaut comparisons, and I think that is the only reason we're seeing any negative opinions on this character.
yeah,
Um, because he is so clearly analogous to Juggernaut, who is a 5 threat and is the not just a 5 threat, but the premier 5 threat in Marvel Crisis Protocol. So, and I probably should have saw this coming that like they would announce Rhino and he would look like he plays a bit like Juggernaut, and then people would make those comparisons. And
mm,
naturally, most things aren't going to look good when you put it next to Juggernaut. But remember, guys, this is a 4 threat character, and he's still pretty good. If you just take that comparison out of your mind, I think
Hmm.
you're more likely to kind of see the light with this character, and I'm really excited to put him on the table.
I think he's going to be great. I like it.
Put some respect on Rhino's name.
Alexei Saitsevich, is that how it's pronounced? Saitsevich?
I have no idea. Sounds close enough.
Yeah,
Saitsevich?
we'll go with it. We'll rock
Yeah.
with it.
All right. So, that covers Rhino. So I guess now we can move on to talking about Everfest, the Marvel,
Everyone.
or
Everyone.
excuse me, Everwinter. So Everwinter, how big was the field at this tournament, guys?
I think it was 20 players.
Okay, that's what I had
Yeah,
thought I had
that
heard on
sounds
the
right.
stream. And if you guys want to watch any of the streamed games from that tournament, I believe you would be able to find them on the Professional Casual Network YouTube channel coming up in like the next couple weeks. I think they said they would be uploading them there.
Yeah,
Um,
should be next couple weeks. It's all still on their Twitch, so if you
right,
look up their Twitch, it's still all there. Just a little bit longer streams.
Yeah.
right. So, how do you guys want to do this? Do you kind of want to do what we did last time when we did the tournament recap there, or
Um, sure. I mean, we can like go back and forth a little bit because,
yeah,
well, let's start with round one on day one. So, I mean, for as far as the format goes, um, it was a 5 round tournament on day one, and with a top eight cut for day two.
Hmm.
Um, and it was so to start on Saturday on the first round, I got to buy round one, which is unfortunate.
Li- Instantly living the dream.
Yeah, and then I was really kind of bummed about this because strength of schedule is the main tiebreaker, and getting a buy is like a black hole on your strength of schedule.
Hmm.
But it ended up being okay. But Ben, you played on stream on the first round, so I guess we can like talk about that really quick. And
Yeah. So my first opponent was a back-to-back Everwinter champion, Phil the Younger, because we don't quite sure know how to pronounce his last name. Um, and we'll be talking about him a little bit later. But he brought Dark Dimension.
so first of all, Ben, what were you bringing to
Uh,
Everwinter?
Surprise, surprise! I brought Brotherhood, but more importantly, I brought Mono Brotherhood. All
Ooh,
Every single character was in affiliation,
I love it.
and it was the dream team. I loved it. I could actually pull up the team real quick. I brought Mysterio. Oh, not Mysterio.
whoa!
There
I make
yeah.
that same mistake all the time,
I do.
confusing
Yeah.
Magneto and
Uh,
Mysterio when I'm talking.
yeah. Yep. Magneto, Mystique, Juggernaut, Rogue, Gambit, Scarlet Witch, Toad, Blob, Pyro, and Sabretooth, the apex predator. We were able to get our hands on those three characters and paint them up and live the dream. The tactic cards I brought were Asteroid M, Magnetic Refraction, Indomitable, Do You Know Who I Am, Follow Me, Recal, No More Mutants, Deception, Face Me, and Pyrotechnics. The Crisis were Demons, Downtown, Deadly Meteors, Intrusions, then extracts were Hammers, Research Station, and the Montesi formula. Um, all in all, a very fighty team, and was able to have a really great day. So round one, I get Phil the Younger, who is bringing Dark Dimension, which was very interesting. I haven't played against Dark Dimension in quite some time. The crisis that we pulled was scrolls and intrusions. And can we just celebrate very briefly the death of single extracts? Can we
Oh
just
Oh,
God,
I'm
yeah,
so
yeah.
go
So
ahead?
happy.
this tournament,
Uh,
we should clarify, was when we
yes.
were traveling to Boston on Friday, the day before the tournament. During the car ride, the new Crisis stuff got released, and Brian,
Mhm.
the TO, made the executive decision that we were not going to use the new crises the
Yeah.
day after they come out.
Probably the
So this was kind of
easiest
like,
decision a TO has ever
yeah.
made.
So this was kind of like a swan song, a farewell, so to speak, to the crises of old, and the last time we're ever going to play on these. So yeah,
Good riddance.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Just it is. I'm just so happy and excited for the end of single extracts and all of that shenanigans. Because I played on single extracts a whole bunch this tournament, and I didn't get punished too bad for them, but it was nice to see the end. And this was a great game. It took a while for the scroll to be found. Ended up
Shocker.
being, yeah, we rolled on it about 9 times, I think, somewhere around there. Sabretooth ended up finding it and proceeded to murder everyone. He ended up bringing on his roster something like Heimdall, Dormammu, Honey Badger, and Human Torch. I brought Magneto, Juggernaut, Rogue, uh, and Sabretooth, and Juggernaut just bullied the Human Torch. It was quite hilarious. Phil's a great guy. Shout out to Phil.
yeah,
Uh,
Phil's
what a
awesome.
what a great opponent. We were able to laugh and have a whole bunch of fun. His dice were not behaving very well that game, and my dice were just on fire. Really, for the whole day one, it was just pretty impressive. So yeah, had a great round one against Phil. That was my only game that went to time. Um, and we attributed to that because we were still kind of getting things set up with the stream and all that fun stuff. And but I ended up taking that game 13 to 6 or 13 to 4. Sorry, 13 to 4. Being able to hold on to that scroll pretty early and then uh, just abuse characters off of the intrusion and Juggernaut just choo-choo training across the board is always a fun time. People have told me on the receiving end it's not great, but the one giving it out, it's a great time where you could just choo-choo Juggernaut and it was great. So yeah, that was my round one.
Nice. I had a very relaxed round one. I got to play a game with Brian, the TO, and hang out, watch your game a little bit, Ben, which by the way is again up on Professional Casual Network,
Hmm.
or it's going to be. And yeah, and then we went to round two, which I got to play a game. You're 1-0 at this point. I'm technically 1-0.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, actually, and before we continue, I think it's probably fair to say, our expectation going in, both Shane and I, one, 6 hour car ride, which credit to Shane, who, led the dream, drove the whole way, both there and back. So extra bonus points to Shane. He's the car champion. Um, but both our expectations were, to make it into cuts. I think we felt pretty confident. We had a lot of practice, going into the tournament. I mean, I don't know how many games we practiced, Shane, but it felt like a whole bunch. Um, and we felt both pretty confident that we could make it into day two. So we're both 1-0 at this point, living the dream.
yeah, and I got oh, and thank you for the car champion moniker. I will hold on to that.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I so on round two for my first actual game, I get to play on stream. Apparently they wanted to watch Spider Foes. I was the only Spider Foe at the tournament. Um, so my roster here today was let me pull it up here. It was so I was running foes. I ran Green Goblin, Lizard, Venom, Mysterio, Cassandra Nova, Doctor Octopus, Black Widow, Craven the Hunter, Doctor Voodoo, and Beast. Um, my tactic cards were the Grand Illusion, Lethal Protector, Mental Domination, Brace for Impact, Exceptional Healing, Sacrifice, Sinister Traps, Fallback, No Matter the Cost, and Face Me. For my secures, I took Mutant Madmen, Infinity Formula, Superpowered Scoundrels, Form Sinister Syndicate. And for my extracts, I chose Hammers, Cubes, and Spider Infected. Um, and the old reliables. And so for round two, my first actual game, I get paired against. I don't want to try to pronounce his last name. Joe G. I'm gonna say Joe G because his last name starts with a G. He was playing Black Order. He was 1-0, and we get put on stream, and we roll. First of all, the stream setup was awesome. It was like
Yeah.
very. Normally it's like playing on stream is the only other time I played on stream at a tournament. It was like the stream setup was a little more cramped than the. Actually, no. Now that I think about it, it was a little cramped, but it was still better than the normal setup. But at Everwinter, the stream setup was very spacious. I had room to put my stuff down, whereas in the actual room, there wasn't as much room, and it was like very loud. Um, but I really liked the stream setup. So we roll for Prio, and I believe he took Prio, if I'm not mistaken. But we ended up on Scoundrels and the other one was Spider Infected. I ran a squad of Green Goblin, Mysterio, Cassandra Nova, I believe, yeah, Venom and Lizard. And he ran Thanos, which was Space Mind Thanos, um, Corvus Glaive, Black Dwarf, and he ran the Human Torch,
Mm.
which was interesting. Um, I didn't have. I don't think I had Prio because I took Sinister Traps and I trapped the middle point, um, with the hope that he would try to tank it and grab it, which he didn't. He did the smart thing. He didn't tank and grab it. Um, and we play our spider infected stuff, and we have a pretty neutral turn one. He does go for the Thanos like fishing reel on me in that first round, but he misunderstood the throw trigger on the builder. He thought it was a mono direct or like
Oh,
omnidirectional throw,
yeah, yeah.
and but it was a throwaway, so it kind of changed his whole game plan. That's a very common mistake. I do that all the time with characters that have throwaways. And it kind of changed his game plan, and he didn't get to do exactly what he wanted, which was throw Goblin onto my Sinister Trap. Um, and then as a result, his turn kind of ended, and then Nova walked up and mind possessed Thanos onto the Sinister Trap, and then launched him back to his deployment zone, basically. Um, but I was doing pretty well in scoring, and then on turn 2 or 3, there was a moment where the Human Torch, who was holding a spider infected, uh, rolled his spider infected roll, and I got to move him, and I moved him towards a size 3 truck, and Goblin blew it up and dazed Human Torch in the power phase. Um, when you're going 4 wide and you lose a character in the power phase against a team that's wider than you, that's
Yeah.
pretty brutal. That's hard to come back from. And in the last round, I was able to have Venom come over. I was scoring. I was like looking at the score, and I was going to get 15 points. And then I know I have Venom left, and I look over, and he's got both Black Dwarf and Thanos sitting on one of my points, and Venom is 2 walks away from it. He's got 4 power. So Venom walks up, he web snares Thanos off the point. This is the last activation. He web snares Black Dwarf off the point, and then he walks onto the point, and I score 16 and win.
Mm.
Um, yeah, that was a pretty good game, pretty clean game. Joe was a fun guy. Shout out to him. And Ben, what did you play?
Yeah, I played my buddy Rusty. Rusty's another great guy from the Professional Casual Network. Shout out to Rusty. He's just a great guy. He also very clearly won the best dressed out of all of us. Showed up with a
Oh yeah,
Daredevil, 3D printed Daredevil helmet, and then when we went out later, had the best jack. I mean, just swagger
he had
galore.
this snazzy blazer that he just
Oh
pulled
man,
out of nowhere. Nobody
just
saw him change into it. He just had it.
just had it, just ready to rock and roll. So shout out to Rusty. Rusty was bringing Shield, and to his credit, was bringing Daredevil in his Shield. So rip in peace, Daredevil. But we played hammers and meteors. I played meteors a lot. And one of the many reasons why I played meteors in my list is it could be super oppressive. It is an all or nothing secure. If you have the majority of the meteors, you get 3 and your opponent gets nothing. And so a lot of my scores really reflected that. Um, that if you were able to get these meteors, um, you're able to pull away, and people just don't catch up. And with an attrition style team like the Brotherhood, where I'm forcing you to say you got to come to me and get these meteors, or I'm just going to pull away. And I'm going to pull away fast. Um, Rusty went 7 wide. Went 7 wide on that game. It was bonkers. I had 4 wide that game, so he did outnumber me by just a smidge, just by a little bit. Um, and the crazy thing of that game that is just frozen in my memory forever is Black Widow after Rogue comes up, gets a turn 1 charge into grunts who have a hammer. I explode them as they do. Grunts are able to put the hammer away, 2 away, so I don't get to pick them up with Rogue. Uh, Black Widow comes, picks them up with a single move, and because I had moved Rogue just a smidge too far, Black Widow punches Rogue, which is usually not too bad, right, guys? Right? It's Black Widow, and Shane has heard me say this several times. I think she's poo poo. I don't like her. Uh, she's
Being
nothing to be.
punished for it.
You know,
Clearly.
I just was not threatened at all by this Black Widow. I laughed a little bit. Right? It was great, and all of a sudden, after that one single move with a hammer, she does 4 damage to Rogue. Just bam. It was. I mean, the whole room stopped for a second because I just said, Rogue just took 4 damage from Black Widow. Just what? Everybody just stopped and laughed at me. It was great. It was a communal moment where people could just laugh at this Brotherhood player. It was great. But it was rough for Rusty. Pyro really took advantage of him going 7 wide. It was able to bounce a lot of incinerate off of people, and on a really amazing magnetic refraction and asteroid M play, Magneto dazed, or KO'd 1 and dazed 3 other models.
Ooh, ooh.
And it's pretty hard to come back with that. And I was able to control from that point, able to control all the hammers, and stay on the point pretty aggressively. So that game um, was rough for Rusty. He put up a good fight, but that game ended with a score of 16-4.
Okay.
But going into round 3, was feeling pretty confident. Shane and I were. I think we had lunch, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly. We had lunch, and so we're talking about living the dream. And one of the things that we were worried about, as Shane mentioned, is that first round bye is scary. It hurts that strength of schedule. But we were confident that Shane could win out and really get in that first round bye until we got some bad news.
Yeah, we were
Going
playing each other.
Oh
Playing each other.
no.
round 3, we play each other.
Then I'll let you take the lead on this one. You got.
Yeah, well, so this is weird, and I don't know if our listeners could maybe empathize with this. It's weird when your practice buddy. I mean, you and your practice buddy, you play so many games. You really hope not to play them in the tournament, or at least until to the finals. That was our dream, right, Shane? That was our
Oh,
dream,
for
was
sure.
to
Yeah.
play in the finals. But it gets really weird when we're playing, and all of a sudden now we're worried. Okay, if one of us loses this game, we don't potentially make the cuts, and all of this stuff. But and we've played each other so much that it's okay. What can we do? What little thing can we do to throw each other off? So I took a big risk. We pulled we pulled meteors and hammers.
Yep.
Uh,
So you got it
uh,
twice in a row. Yeah.
I got it twice in a row, and I knew that that was a secure that Shane didn't like. Shane, you're not a big fan of meteors, just in general. Um,
I hated the old meteors, and
yeah,
I don't love the new one, but I like it a lot more than the old one.
yeah, that's super fair. And like I said, we in some of our practice games, we had those, like I said, just blowouts. So it's meteors. Old meteors was really hard to work around. So I felt pretty confident. Um, I can't remember the threat value that we played for that game. Um, what I do know is I decided to shake it up a little bit, and I played Mystique. I brought Mystique, and
Yeah.
more
It was
importantly, I
it
brought
was 18 because I know that I had Nova and Venom, which means I was
that's
playing at 18.
that's what it was. Yeah, and more importantly, I brought out the Blob. Live the dream, who proceeded to get one shot by Venom with a hammer. Venom walks up and just explodes Blob, who's got 6 health, damage reduction, all of this other stuff, 4 physical defense, and then Venom's like, "Here, hold my symbiote," and just explode poor Blob. But that game got out of hand pretty quick. Um, it was kind of nuts. Shane's dice was not really they weren't playing nice with you that game. Besides
Not particularly.
yeah.
I I
Go ahead.
recall so the list that I took this game was it was like I said it was Green Goblin, Cassandra Nova, Venom, um and then I believe it was Lizard and Black Widow.
Hmm.
And Black Widow uh went up to the well, first of all, Lizard ran in the middle and tried to flip a point that was uncontested, and he failed,
Yeah, and failed. Yeah,
which
it took
cost
a
me 3
damage.
points. Yeah,
It took
so
a,
it cost me 3 points. He takes the damage, and then Widow runs up to the right side to try and just grab a hammer and just chill out because it's Rogue is the only one there, and I'm like, well, Rogue she hurts, but she's gonna run within 2 of me at least on this first turn and hit me, and I'll get 2 dice with blank, so it's like I should survive, and then Nova can come save Widow. But no, Rogue walks up, and I'm pretty sure she one shots Widow,
hmm
and then I think the
yeah,
next turn she one shots Widow again, and then Widow's dead. Um, and yeah, I mean when you're losing in meteors, the game goes fast.
yes, yeah,
It's because you're getting the 3 points a turn from that, and then pretty quickly you had 3 hammers because Widow died and melted. So you were getting 6 points a turn pretty much from turn two onward. Um, actually, turn one onward, I'm pretty sure. And
yeah,
so by,
yeah.
by turn three, the game was pretty much settled in your favor.
Yeah, that game, like as Shane said, when you're scoring 6 points a turn from starting from turn one, um, was just got a hand pretty quick. And I remember, I think at some point we were just saying like, there's really just nothing that you can do to climb out of this hole. Um, so we finished. I can't remember the final score of that game. I don't have it in front of me.
It was something big. It was like I had
Yeah,
like 6 points.
yeah, yeah. I can't. I don't remember if I hit. I don't think I hit 20, but I don't remember. It was pretty big. So yeah. So and that kind of hurt both of us, right? Because it stinks to beat your battle buddy, right? This is your battle buddy, that you've been practicing, all these weeks with.
Hmm.
Um, but you feel pretty good, going in. You're like, okay, at this point, I'm 3-0, and feeling good. But Shane, do you want to talk about? I mean, you're 2-1 at this
Yeah.
point with a
So
with a with a bye, right? So we're
yeah.
feeling the pressure. We're feeling the pressure.
So I knew going in because there was 20 players in the top eight cut that it would technically be possible to make top eight if you went 3-2. Um, but with my buy, I figured that's gonna make it pretty difficult unless I play multiple people that do very well. Um, and so my next opponent, I have to go back on stream because they wanted to see Guardians, and I happen to be playing the only Guardians player. His name is
Hmm.
Arthur Washborn, and I just want to give a shout out to Arthur because This game is probably the most like decisive. Like the last game that you know where you beat me there that day, Ben, was like you beat me pretty convincingly. But it was a weird it was a weird setup for me. I didn't feel
Yeah.
very comfortable on it, and there was some bad dice for me. But it was a pretty it was a solid defeat.
Mm.
I played Arthur next, who's playing Guardians of the Galaxy with Space Reality Thanos. Um, and it was not like this wasn't a dice thing, even though my dice were pretty horrible this game and his dice were pretty good, but it was not a dice thing. Arthur just crushed me. And I have never felt like I got beat this bad by somebody since I lost to Lucas in the season 8 top 8 of the TTS league.
Mm.
It was like one of the most like sweeping defeats I feel like I've ever had where I just walked away like, holy crap, that guy was very good. And I was very, very impressed with Arthur. And I came from that game, I was like, holy crap, that guy's winning this tournament, right? Like this
Yeah,
guy's
yeah.
amazing.
He's
Um,
a number one player in Jersey, right? I think rated in Longshanks, I
that
believe.
checks out. I think he was the highest rated player at the tournament,
I believe so. Yeah.
on Longshanks, but he just crushed me. We ended up I'm not gonna go super deep into the game because you can go watch it on stream. But it was Demons Downtown, which I hated against him, and cubes, which not particularly great. And I didn't take traps this game, and I didn't take voodoo or anything. I took like Nova, the standard kind of. I think very similar thing to what I took against you, Ben. It might have been almost the same, but we played at let's think demons, and yeah, we played at 19. Um, and he controlled the game so well with first of all, I don't want to go to the middle to pick up the middle cube because if I do, I'm going to get fishing reeled and murdered by reality Thanos.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So I don't do that, and I'm like, well, I can maybe counter with Nova whatever he decides to do in the middle if I let him have the middle, and then he moves Groot up to the middle, but not quite far enough that I could hit him with Nova, which means he's not grabbing the middle point. He's just kind of like behind the middle point, like in cover. And I'm like, okay, well, what's he doing here with that? I'm like, well, let's not worry about it. The cube's still there. I'll just punish whoever comes up. And then he has Rocket come up and grab the middle, which is kind of a weird thing. Rocket's not like a middle extract grabber. And then it sinks in what he's doing. And it's kind of too late to stop it at this point. And Rocket is in the middle within 2 of Groot. And my plan to walk up and mind possess whoever took the middle and walk them into me doesn't work anymore because if I walk up and try to mind possess Rocket, Groot's just going to bodyguard, and Rocket's
Mm.
completely safe at that point. And then on top of that, he goes last with Thanos, moves up and Cosmic Portals Venom back, which was far enough back that Venom would have to double move next turn if he wanted to walk up and web snare Rocket, which would mean he'd instantly be able to activate again and walk away with Rocket. So it was a very bad board state right away. And he's sitting there with 3 cubes. He's got the middle, so he's getting 5 points. I'm getting 3, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna get this back. And then
Mm.
I'm like, it's turn 2, and I'm like, okay, I'm like, it's like I'm playing very slow, which I never do because I'm just trying to unravel this puzzle. And I'm like, okay, I think I see the play. I see the play. It's a really weird play, but I'm gonna do it. And I have Nova walk up. She throws a builder into Groot to get some power. And then I use mental domination on Rocket, the tactic card. So I get to walk Rocket towards my team and then make an attack with Rocket into himself. And I think for sure because this way I'm walking Rocket out of bodyguard range of Groot. He's towards me. I might kill him with this attack. And then he uses freaking escort to safety on Thanos to pull Rocket back into range 2 of Groot. And then Rocket goes to attack himself with mental domination, and Groot bodyguards Rocket from himself. And all of a sudden I'm right back where I started, and that was like my trap card, and he just got right out of it. And from there, I mean, I did eventually daze Thanos, but it was too little, too late. He just kind of scored out. He was slowly killing my team. I tried to take some risks, didn't work out. And Arthur just played like a perfect game. It was I was so impressed. And shout out to him. He was an amazing player. Just absolutely crushed me. And I said to him after, I'm like, well, I'm like, you played amazing. I'm probably not making top 8 now, but GG, man. Like, you were awesome. And I did think I was out at this point, but so I'm 2-2 at this point, with a bye. So it's not really been a good day for me. And Ben, you play, I don't remember who you played next, but
I play Kevin, and I am
yeah,
fearful of pronouncing his last name as well. Smaglis, I think is how you
I
pronounce
don't
it.
actually know if it's Smagless or if it's Kevin S. Magless or something. I don't know. But
Yeah,
Kevin, he's a good
uh,
guy.
we know him from the TTS league. He's been on the TTS league. He's at this point also the last undefeated, and more importantly, he's playing Brotherhood. And so we have a Brotherhood slap fight. There were 3 Brotherhood players.
Yeah, I
Uh,
just want to cut in and say Brotherhood was kind of like very much the gatekeeper of this tournament. Like if you wanted to win this tournament, you would have to have beaten Brotherhood at some point. Like there's no way you're going to win this tournament if you can't win a matchup against Brotherhood.
mhm.
Um,
uh, which is a good problem to have. I love it. I'm fully on that train. It was very interesting. I don't think I've seen that many Brotherhoods show up to a tournament. I mean, even when we were at NashCon, and we had 60 some odd people. Um, we didn't have that many Brotherhood. We had 3, well, maybe had 2 or 3, and I was one of them. So it was cool to see, the Brotherhood out in force. But Kevin and I play, and it's hard. Brotherhood mirror matches are scary. We ended up playing Hammers and Demon Downtown, which coincidentally we both had in our roster. Our rosters were almost identical. It was pretty funny. He had a couple splash characters, so I did make fun of him and said I am the true Brotherhood because I went Mono Brotherhood. But uh, we had a great time. He ended up putting down on the field Magneto, Juggernaut, Rogue, and Mister Sinister. I put down Magneto, Juggernaut, Rogue, and Sabretooth. Uh, he had Prio, which we both knew. I mean, whoever was going to have Prio was just going to throw all of the things, um, and that happened. Turn one where it's really spending into getting into position. Brotherhood mirror matches are really weird because the second you smash something, if which is a lot of turn one Brotherhood shenanigans, is you want to break something, smash some terrain so that you can spread out your power, get your team powered up for some turn one shenanigans. Well, you can't really do that safely against a Brotherhood mirror match because you're giving your opponent that same amount of power. And we had, both of us had 3 of the same characters, so it was a really interesting puzzle for both of Kevin and I to try to figure out how do you crack this code. And um, we go into turn 2. He has Prio. My Juggernaut had picked up a hammer. His Mister Sinister had picked up a hammer, and then both our rogues had picked up a hammer. And his strategy right out of the gate was to daze my Juggernaut, and sure enough, he did. He uh, It cost him a lot. He threw a lot of things at Juggernaut to daze him, but he eventually did. Gave a hammer to his Juggernaut, and now I'm thinking, well, crap. Now we got my Jug's not is now down. His Juggernaut's got the hammer. Um, the one thing that I knew out of the gate, where I felt a lot more confident, was um, after I go with my Sabretooth, I one shot his Mister Sinister, get his hammer, and start moving Sabretooth into some relevant position. He takes his Juggernaut and uses "Do You Know Who I Am" on a size 4 terrain feature, and throws it at my rogue, which doesn't kill her. thankfully. Um, but I felt a lot more confident when he used that card on a terrain feature. Um, that allowed me to kind of do some things control wise that he just wasn't quite capable to do. Start of turn three, I had Prio. Using my Juggernaut, was able to do you know who I am? His Magneto just into irrelevancy. Um, and from that point, really controlled the game, um, and was able to put a lot of dice in his characters. I had Follow Me where he didn't. So I was able to really jump on him, daze his models, and then keep priority, which was very important. And I ended up pulling away the win with a 16-8 win. Uh, so I was feeling good, feeling good. All of a sudden, now I know I'm auto in top eight. I've got 4 wins. Um, I've lived the dream, and I'm in. And I met Shane after the game and was excited to hear about the victory. And now, oh crap, we gotta get the W for that last round, going into round five. And Shane, you want to talk about your round five opponent?
Yeah, I get paired against Robert Reel, his name was. He was a Wakanda player. Um and he's a good player. He's from the same local scene as Arthur,
Hmm.
who I just played. And he was playing Wakanda. Um And I mean, as far as I know, he Arthur actually, or not Arthur, Robert rather, did very well at the LVO qualifier over at Midgard Games in New Hampshire. That
Hmm.
was pretty big just a few months back. I think in August he went 4-1 there, and that was the tournament with the Montreal Shark Tank. So I mean, that was a
That's a
pretty
big deal. Yeah.
impressive performance. Yeah, he's a good player. Um, and I'm looking at his roster, and I see a Hulk, and I see Black Panther, and like a lot of the usual suspects. He's got a Voodoo. And I believe we draw Scoundrels, which I got a lot this day, and or this whole tournament really. And then the extract was, what the heck was the extract? Oh my goodness, I'm like trying to think.
It's hard to, it's like, man, there was a
It's
lot of moving
just
pieces.
there was there was a lot of moving pieces. That's right. I believe it was Spider Infected. Yeah. So we're playing on Spider Infected. I am like not convinced I'm even going to make cut, even if I win this game. And I'm expecting him to take Hulk, and he doesn't take Hulk. He actually takes Mind Gem Loki, which um, I learned a lot about Mind Gem Loki this game. He took Mind Gem Loki. He took Black Panther, Shuri, Doctor Voodoo, and who was the last character? Killmonger. Took Killmonger. And this was a really tight game. I think I believe he was winning early on in the early stages. I did play Sinister Traps this game. I ran a team of it was my own Voodoo, Cassandra Nova, Green Goblin, Venom, and Mysterio. And I think overall he was, we played a pretty like back and forth game. Um, I felt pretty comfortable. It was kind of similar to the game against Joe earlier in the day where, it came down to like that final turn. I identified, if I move this way and do this, I'm going to get to 16 points instead of 15, and that's what ended up happening. I don't remember the exact
Mhm.
play. But I think one of the big moments was early on Cassandra Nova. He moved Black Panther up, which I've played a lot against, like Black Panther and Shadowland Daredevil, who are the characters that like they count blanks, but not against Mystic. So it's like their weakness. And every time somebody moves those characters up into the middle across from Nova, they die in turn one.
Mhm.
And typically they get KO'd on turn two. This is just it's just a common thing it, at this point. And so Black Panther, I believe, does get dazed on turn one. Um, and then Nova moves up, and then on turn two, um, Killmonger shifts over. I believe it was Killmonger, and moves towards Cassandra Nova to kill her, and I roll for tricks and traps and I fail. And I'm like, okay, well, this sucks, but Nova's got like 7 health. He's probably gonna hit her pretty hard, but she'll get a bunch of power, and then she'll right the ship and healing factor back a little bit throughout the game. And then he uses usurp the throne, and he dazes her. He just one shots her, and he gets 2 victory points. And Nova's just been one shot, and I'm like, oh
Mm.
god, I'm like, this is actually holy crap, this is really bad.
Right now we're in
Um,
danger. We're in danger, boys.
Now we're in the danger mode, but it's okay. I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna get Prio next turn. Nova's gonna be full power. There's a barely alive um Panther who's like, I can KO him next turn, and then maybe I'll and Voodoo came over that turn too and started, causing problems in the middle of the board. And I was like, I can probably kill both of these guys with Nova. I've got mental domination. I can get a bunch of, damage out. I can get a bunch of tricks and traps out. It's gonna be sick. And the next turn comes. Oh, and I will say the other important thing that happened that turn was my voodoo possessed Shuri on the back line, which she dropped a spider infected, and she was just sitting in the back line. So she was kind of just out of the game. That was like a point that he just couldn't score the rest of the game. I think I left it on her. That's like the worst kind of character to have a possession on. Like
Mm.
for like because it's just like the backline holder who's holding an objective and standing on a thing. Now they're not really doing anything, and she can't do damage really. She just pushes me and does 1 damage, so it kind of just takes her out of the game for the most part. Um, but then next turn comes, I have the big attrition attempt with Cassandra Nova, and I end up leaving Panther and Voodoo both on 1 health.
Oof. Gotta
Neither of
love
them
it.
die. Yeah, and then Nova gets KO'd, and I'm like, "Uh-oh, this isn't good." Um, on the left side of the board is just kind of Loki trolling, Venom and Mysterio. But the points aren't that bad partially because of Voodoo, and I'm managing to hold on to my extract lead, and fortunately, Mysterio is coming in clutch every time I needed him to walk up and push a damage through, and then succeed on his tricks and traps. He did it. And it really just set me up in a way to have my voodoo and my goblin like clean up the injured characters because there was a lot of characters that were either on their injured side or like 1 or 2 health,
Mm.
and I ended up getting through, and I think I won on turn 3 or 4, because it's scoundrels and those F shape extracts are really fast scoring. Um and Yeah, that ended up going pretty well for me. My voodoo was a beast that game. Goblin was kind of a beast too. And I'm looking at the scoreboard after the standings, and I'm like, I might make top 8. Like, I might get in as, like, the 8th seed,
Mm.
like, barely if, like, 1 game goes my way for strength of schedule, and that did happen. And then it also the reason this really happened is specifically, I saw my opponent Joe got a couple wins, but it was Ben, Arthur and Ben, my other opponents, just kicked ass all day, and they boosted up my strength of schedule just enough to make top 8. So 3 and 2 ended up being enough. So I guess
You're
Ben, you
welcome.
can. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, it was kind of intimidating and scary at this point now. Everyone's talking about this Mono Brotherhood list. Um, just is this good? You know, who's this weird guy with the Magneto's right shirt, right? Uh, all of that, wondering, what's going on, and now you're the last undefeated. And I don't know about you, Shane and Ryan, but I always get nervous in those moments. You're last undefeated, and you're like, I want to live the dream, and you want to go undefeated for the day and really kind of, stamp, put your stamp on it. And I get paired against Shane York. Uh, Shane York's a great player. He's really active on the TTS league. Pretty high ranked. It's we had low numbers. 20 folks. But at the same time, these were all solid players. I mean, the core of the folks who were here were just top notch players, and that was really awesome. But I play against Shane York, and win Prio, and choose my secures. He's running Asgard, uh, which is a mixed bag of emotions. Um, my biggest hope is not to see Angela. Angela is just such a troll against Brotherhood. She makes life really difficult. And at the same time, I don't want to see Loki because Loki is a literal troll. That's actually just what he does. And so uh, we pull intrusions and senators.
Ugh.
And I was just thinking to myself, please don't pick 14. Please don't. It's not that you can't do it at 14. It's just annoying. You know, 14 is really not that scary. I know that some people, have said, "Oh, I put those 14 costs because it throws my opponent off." It's not that it throws you off. It's just annoying. You know, and of course he picks 14. Uh, and I was instantly annoyed. But I knew at the same time, as an Asgard player, he's got to take two big boys. So he's going to go tall. Thor's a 5 cost. He had Loki with the Mind Gem, and Angela. So three of his Asgardian guys, were 5. He had a Hulk on that list, and a couple other things. So I said, I'm going to see 2 5 threats. I really highly doubt that he's going to take, Valkyrie or something like that. So I felt really confident going with Magneto, uh, Jugs, and Pyro. That's who I brought to that game was Magneto, Jugs, and Pyro. Mainly taking Pyro for pyrotechnics, just in case he finds the senator. I can slap an incinerate and get a steal off. And felt pretty confident about it. He ends up taking Thor, Loki, and Enchantress. And Enchantress was such a good pick for him. She's got the steel. She's got bow. Uh, I was really, really nervous. But with Prio, I walk, crash through a size 2 to give out some power, search for the senator, and you know what happened? My boy Juggernaut lived the dream. First roll of the game, there's that pesky senator.
You don't even
Uh,
roll it, right? You just flipped
uh,
the
you
center. It
just
was there.
yeah, we just flip it. Well, we didn't actually have the senator dial, so we rolled a D3 for it,
Okay.
and we found it, and uh, sure enough, there he was, and he looked at me and goes, "Well, that's probably not going to be good for me." I'm like, "Nope, it is definitely really bad for you." uh, and after that, maintained control pretty much the entire game. Um, the hilarious part, round 2. So the rest of round 1, he moves Enchantress to 1 point, double walks Loki to contest the intrusion Juggernaut's on, and only single moves. Interesting thing, he only single moves Thor and throws a hammer at Juggernaut, um, which I didn't mind too much. Put Thor further out of position, right? Um, so I wasn't too upset about that. Had enough power going into turn 2 to do you know who I am onto Loki, forcing him to double walk back onto the point to remain relevant. Um, and hilariously, he fails his going through intrusions portals twice.
Oh,
So he goes through intrusions because Jugs, after he throws Loki, just runs away, as you do with those single extracts. And um, poor Loki tries to hop to the middle intrusion to, put some dice into Juggernaut. He fails. I throw him to the furthest one away. He rolls it again, fails again, and he goes back to where he started. So Loki for two rounds does absolutely nothing, which I was okay with. Um, I was able to daze Enchantress and threaten the KO into turn 3. So um, that game was pretty well in hand. He does get one steal off on Juggernaut, which was kind of annoying. But after that, was able to KO Enchantress, um, and secure the win. Ended up winning 16-4 that game, um, and secured the undefeated record.
Yeah,
And
5-0.
the 5-0, and actually unbeknownst to us, and it was announced at the beginning of the day Saturday. We, both Shane and I think a lot of the people thought that it was going to be the winner of day 2 who took the LVO Invitational. But what was explained to us by our wonderful host, Brian Watson, who's just a great host, a great organizer. We really appreciated Brian, and Matt Alex, who was there, is another TO, great guy. Um, they shared with us that because of scheduling and all the things that worked out, it was actually the winner of Saturday who got the
Yeah,
LVO.
just whoever was in first place on Saturday would get the qualifier. So that ended up being
Yes,
you, Ben.
that ended up
Um,
being me.
yeah.
So
And you
I got
obviously,
my golden ticket. I got my golden ticket.
yeah. And you obviously make day 2. I squeak in 8th. Um, and the funny thing is, I'm kind of told in the end of the day that like we were pretty much told our matchups the next day, and I was under the impression that I was going to have to play Arthur
Yeah.
on my first game of day 2, the guy that just walloped me. And I'm like, "Oh god," literally anybody else I would have been pretty confident in if I just gave myself a night to like refresh.
Hmm.
Um
Yeah, because
and
we had a couple shakeups. A couple people couldn't make day 2.
yeah,
So it the seating was kind of weird, and so
yeah,
it kind of shook things up. So yeah, we ended up, Shane was mulling it over, thinking he was going to have to play Arthur.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was agonizing the entire night over how I was gonna approach playing against Space Reality Thanos Guardians of the Galaxy. And then I get in on Sunday morning, and it turns out I'm not playing it, Arthur after all. Arthur's there. It's just that the seating changed because we had a drop or two, and I'm actually playing Matt Pettit, aka on the Discord, Ronin around, who is a pretty known, um, strong player. And he was running Avengers. And here's the weird tidbit from this tournament: he was the only Avengers player.
Yeah, that was a surprise.
Super unusual. And so I was like, the night before, I was kind of like trying to think about what worked for me and what was I doing wrong. And one thing I noted was that I was in both my wins, I had taken sinister traps, and in both my losses, I didn't take it. Not that this was the reason, but it was obviously putting my opponents in some uncomfortable positions, and it was getting my chip damage started. And I was like, maybe I should lean into this a little more. And I also, I felt a little comfortable using it. And so I play against Matt on day 1 or on day 2 on the first game, the quarterfinals. And I will say my attitude on day 2 was a lot more comfortable. I was more
Mm.
relaxed. I felt a little bit like slightly humbled by my game against Arthur. Just the way in which he beat me, we just felt, I'm just going to show up on day 2 and do the best I can, and I'll be, I'll try my best and just try to
Especially
have a good
thinking
time.
that, yeah, especially thinking that you were going to play him. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and instead I play Matt Pettit, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm happy that I'm playing Sam Avengers. Like, what in the world is wrong with my brain? I'm seeing Sam Avengers. I'm like, oh, thank God. Um, and I win Prio, and uh, I am looking at his stuff, and I really don't like his secures. And I'm looking at his extracts though, and I'm like, I see research, which I'm fine with. I believe it was, and then I see something else, like it was cubes or something, hammers maybe that I was okay with, and then there's legacy virus.
Mm.
I'm like, I hate that, but I don't mind the other two, and I really don't like his secures. It's like a bunch of D shapes and stuff. Um, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna take my secures, and I probably don't draw legacy virus because 2/3 chance I don't, and I draw legacy virus.
Mm. Roll the
And then
dice. Oof.
we get legacy virus and I believe it was scoundrels for the millionth time in this tournament. And I'm thinking as we're setting up, I'm gonna be honest, probably like I've probably easily played over 100 games of foes with like at least since the preseason 8, like in the last 6 months. And it occurred to me as we were setting up, I have never one time played my foes on legacy virus. Never.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like think I've watched legacy virus. I know what it's all about. But it's the kind of extract that you see it on the other side and you're like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna take your secures. We're not even gonna do this." But we got it here, and I'm like, "Oh god." And I see his roster, he's got Steve on it. He also has Sam, but he's got Steve and Hulk and Voodoo and Black Cat. And he doesn't have a Toad, so he doesn't have the complete build of awfulness that is existing on Legacy Virus. But he's got most of the pieces. And I'm like, well, I can expect a Hulk and a Steve, and then, Black Cat and Voodoo. That's like 17 points right there, and then we played on 19, so he's got like a couple extra. He could probably throw like a Widow in there. Um, and then we reveal our teams, and he's playing Sam Avengers, and there is no Hulk, and he's got Sam and Voodoo and Cat. So I got the Voodoo and Cat part right, but then there's Scarlet Witch and Black Panther, and I'm like, this is a major curveball. And I ended up taking uh Cassandra Nova, Green Goblin, Lizard, who I took every game. Um, Doctor Voodoo, because we're on Legacy, it's non-optional. And who's my last character? Uh 19. It might have been, was it Venom? Hold on, let me do some math. So Goblin at 4, Voodoo makes 8. We've got Cassandra Nova, that's 13. I had Lizard at 16, and then I had Mysterio because we played at 19. We got there. And and this is what I'm playing against, and I'm like, okay. So I always had the theory that, Sinister Traps was kind of a decent play on Legacy Virus. It just like makes the process of like starting your whatever play it is you have in mind, it makes that process a little weirder. So I trap the middle Legacy Virus and I deploy Voodoo on the right side. The idea being, if he grabs the middle, I deploy Nova across from that, if he wants to brace that trap, survive that trap, and then Nova's going to punish him for it and pull him in. And then on the right side, if he grabs that one, I have my Voodoo there to come up and possess. And then on the left side, I'm like, I have Prio, so I'm just going to grab that one. I have kind of a game plan to stop him from assembling the Legacy Cure Exodia. And um, so what he ends up doing is he ends up sending Black Panther over onto the Sinister Trap, and it takes him 2 moves to get there because he put him on kind of a flank. And Black Panther takes like 3 damage from the trap, and then he pounces back on and picks it up. And I'm like, right away, I'm really happy because I said this earlier. I've killed Black Panther in the middle of the board with Nova many, many times. So that's exactly what we do. We daze him, and he drops that Legacy Virus. Um, And then he gets the Sam trigger. Sam moves up. Sam grabs the Legacy Virus and runs away. I'm like, well, you know what? At least he paid for it a little bit. On the other side, Black Cat grabs the Legacy Virus, and just as I wanted to, Voodoo comes up and possesses her, hits her and possesses her. And Black Cat pretty much stays possessed for the whole game, most of the game, because if she's possessed, she can't steal from you. So that's
Yeah,
a fun
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Fun fact.
So it kind of takes Black Cat out of the game a little bit. But there's also his Voodoo's over there too, so it's like a pretty weird position. Um, and on the left side, Goblin and Mysterio are kind of like fighting with Scarlet Witch for a long time. On turn 2, I pretty quickly KO Black Panther. And right off the bat, I'm like, okay, this is a really good position. And the viruses are so spread out on the at this point on the board. Even if he does get 2 out of the 3, I'm really confident in my board state. It's really unlikely he's going to assemble it. If I even get a whiff that he's going to assemble it, I have Voodoo on the job to make that harder. And I just he did at one point get Sam over onto the other side and pick up that legacy virus. So he was holding 2, and as you'd expect, Voodoo walks over, he possesses Sam, and stops that from happening. And we're kind of going back and forth, but he's down a character. It's really easy for me to score. Like even if it's just 1 on legacy virus, I'm getting 3 cures or something, or 3 scoundrels or 4 scoundrels, and I'm just doing I'm moving around the board pretty quickly with lizard and goblin and them. Um, and I end up winning. The cure never gets assembled. It's a pretty normal game outside of the threat of that, and it never really came close to getting assembled. Even when he had Sam with 2 on the other side of the board, I had Goblin so far away holding 1
Mm.
that it was never really something I was super worried about. Um, and that ended up being a pretty clean victory. I was happy to get a win over Sam. That's not an easy thing to beat by any means. It's one of my more recent losses with foes was playing against Sam Avengers. And I'm going into the top 4 all of a sudden. I'm pretty happy. I beat a player that I consider to be pretty good going into it. Um, and yeah, and then Ben, you played against Convocation.
Yeah, we don't have to spend too much time. I mean, when I drew Convocation as my round 1 opponent, you just kind of feel sad for them.
Yeah, Brotherhood's
uh,
quite good in that matchup.
uh, yeah, it's I know that I'm going to be pretty dominant all game. You've got to really survive the Ironbound Books turn, and by survive I mean just punch through it as hard as you can. And uh, it was, if I'm remembering correctly, it was the other time I played Meteors, which again, you're just so confident going into Meteors, I know there is very little um, that this Convocation player can do that is super frightening for me. Going into Meteors, and Scrolls was the other one. And of course, I lived the dream. I was 2 games back to back. Juggernaut. I get Prio. That's why we choose my secures. Um, I take Juggernaut, Magneto, uh, Pyro again for pyrotechnics, um, and I think I took Mystique. I don't quite. I can't quite remember why I took Mystique. I think I was thinking of a deception play that probably wasn't actually there. But anyways, Juggernaut lives the dream. He walks up, smashes through something, gives out some power, looks for the scroll, and he finds it right away. Um,
Ugh.
and has enough power to flip the meteor. And it just, Shane, you and I played a game like that in one of our practice games where Hulk like double walked and found the single extract right away. And I was like, well, that's gonna be game, because it's just so hard to come back. People are out of position.
Yeah.
Um, it's just so hard. And Hulk, a Juggernaut, these are characters who are gonna take a very long time for people to chew through. So again, hooray for the death of single extracts. Long live, not that. Um, so yeah, it was there was no really at no point. I think his Sorcerer Supreme Strange ended up um, taking it from me. Oh, he brought Voodoo because that's what you do nowadays is you take Voodoo and
To be fair, he's playing Convocation.
right. Yes, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I should be not as upset about it, but we'll talk about why I'm upset about it here in a second. And um, yeah, so he ended up um, taking the scroll from me at one point. and then you just turn around and beat up wizards. You know what wizards really don't like is a bunch of things thrown at them. Um, and so I was really able to kind of control the field pretty aggressively. Like I said, right out of the gate, um, and I was able to pull away with that game. I believe it was 18-6, something like that, where it was just wasn't super close, and that's um, it was close. It, it just unfortunately for Evan, who had a great tournament. Um, won best painted. His convocation models look great. Um, that was just kind of one of the luck of the draw for me, and the lucky draw for him, where I think he played pretty competitively against most folks. But running into a brotherhood match, he even said it. Walking in, I was like, "Well, this is probably the worst matchup that I can get," and I said, "Yes, I agree."
It was not the
uh,
tournament to run convocation, apparently. There's
no,
quite a
yeah,
few.
yeah. There was three brotherhood players, and so it was no bueno for him. And Um, but he stuck through it and played hard, and did his best. And so yeah, then we thought, again, unbeknownst to us, we thought that we're going to have a different type of pairing going into the semis, going in the yeah, right, going into the semis. And unfortunately, we got drawn into Shane and I playing. And
Yeah.
this time it was for the world to see. It was on stream.
Yep.
And Shane, I took the lead last time. Why don't you talk about this game?
Sure. I think we believe I win Prio here, and we end up on Infinity Form. I take my secure, so it's Infinity Formula, and we do get hammers for a second time. And this time, the curveball that I throw you is I don't take Nova. I don't really take the trap list. I do
Hmm.
have Mysterio there, but I actually take Voodoo instead. We play at 17. Um, so it's or no, it was 18. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was 18.
Because I take Green Goblin, Voodoo, Venom, um, Mysterio, and Lizard. And tell us what you took, Ben.
Yeah, just as Shane talked about, we tried to out curveball each other, right? Again, so not only is this the first game, that we've played against, after all these practice games, but now this is the second time we've seen each other in the same event. Um, so I tried to throw another curveball at Shane, and I took Mystique for a second time, and took Mystique, Pyro, Gambit, Juggernaut, and Rogue.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, and I wanted to continue my plan of running well-laid or not well-laid plans, not well-laid plans, sinister
I
traps.
was, yeah,
Um,
no way life plans.
and yeah, I want to trap the back um, formula because specifically it gets in the way typically when you're pathing to that left side hammer, or I guess right side hammer, depending on which one you put it on. But if you're kind of positioned normally in front of the formula, if there's like kind of any terrain at all in the way, if you put a sinister trap on that back infinity formula, it makes getting to that hammer really awkward.
Hmm.
And that was my plan. And like Juggernaut's over there, but the alternative was I put it over near X or not X three. The alternative was I put it over on the other side, which I didn't want to do because that was the side I wanted to grab with my prio. And so I trapped that backside, and I'm feeling a lot better today than I was yesterday about just my general game plan. Um, I have Venom on the right side that isn't trapped. Walk up and grab the hammer. He's across from Rogue, and Venom is joined by Mysterio, who's going to sit up on a truck and protect that point, while Venom threatened the other back point. Um, and then on their side, there's Voodoo, there's Goblin, there is Lizard against your Juggernaut, Pyro, Mystique, and Gambit.
Hmm.
So you stacked that side pretty heavily. Um, and uh, you know, um, people can watch the stream to believe me. Uh, but the dice in these first few rounds, uh, some of the worst dice I think I've ever had in Marvel Crisis Protocol. I mean, it was bleak. It was just
Yeah.
nothing, nothing, nothing. I mean, watch the stream if you don't believe me. Ben, you were commenting on it. The people sitting next to the table watching were like in disbelief. I thought I was gonna lose because it's like you don't get to win when you roll like this, typically. Um, and it starts, the first thing that happens is Juggernaut walks onto that trap and I get one hit and you shrug it. 1 out of 5 dice, I get one hit, you shrug it. I have a dead tactics card. And then you just walk up and grab the hammer like it's nothing. And because I really wanted to make it like if you want to get that hammer, take some damage, set yourself up to get hurt by Goblin and Voodoo and stuff. But that didn't happen. Um, and I turn 2 happens and I throw a bunch of dice at Juggernaut with Goblin. I don't get a single damage through. I don't get a wild trigger through for an Incinerate. I mean, I have Voodoo throw some dice at I think it was Mystique, and Voodoo gets the trifecta, which he got a few times this game. The 0 damage, 0
Yeah.
wild,
Yeah.
0 skulls. He doesn't get any power. He doesn't get any damage. He doesn't, nothing.
It was impressive.
Um,
Yeah. It
and
was.
that happened about 4 more times.
Yep.
And on the other side, I'm like, all right, well, surely I can win Venom and Mysterio versus Rogue. So Venom walks up, he pulls Rogue into tricks and traps, which does no damage. I whiff on that. And then I double attack Rogue with Venom symbiote tendrils. Venom has a hammer, by the way. And I squeak through 3 damage. Not exactly what I was looking for. I was hoping for the kill there. Um, just like get some damage through, maybe throw something at her. You just finish her off, right? Throw her into a truck. I don't know. That doesn't happen. And then on the other side of the board, it's still just tragedy after tragedy of whiffs. And I'm like, but fortunately, the way that I play, um, is if I don't think I'm going to be able to break parity in my advantage, I play a pretty conservative play style to make sure that if I'm going to be losing, it's barely like I'm a point behind. And that actually, like, for most of the time when I lose in tournament games, like you can see in like my TTS losses, it's usually like I get like 15 points and lose like 15, 17. Just kind of hoping for that, like, that big turn to come.
Hmm.
Which is a good thing. I don't take a lot of unnecessary risks, even in a losing position sometimes, which keeps me in it. And when I do see any moment for something good to happen, I try to jump on it. And eventually that moment came. My leader gets KO'd on turn 3, though, and it's just Voodoo and Lizard over there. At one point, you did. Do you know who I am on Voodoo? To get him really far away, which made my life pretty difficult. And you were really kind of encroaching on my back formula, which was bad. Um, and finally, Voodoo gets up and he gets a good attack into somebody. I don't really
Gambit.
remember
Yeah.
who
It
it
was
was. Gambit. Yeah,
Gambit. Man, he was the one who let me down.
yeah. And then I'm able to finally possess Juggernaut. And I think Mystique had already gone at this point, so I'm actually getting that back point again, and Voodoo was able to pick up one of the hammers. And then, we were able to kind of control Rogue out of the game on the other side of the board, where she was like in no man's land outside of 3 of Mysterio with like 1 health left, and Mysterio had tricks and traps up. So I'm like, okay, Mysterio's got this one under control. Venom is going to pivot to that side of the board, pick up that hammer, and then he'll have 2 hammers. And then next turn, you're gonna have prio, but if barring, you crushing me with your prio, Venom is about to kill all of those 3 threats over there, and suddenly the game is about to swing back. And that is pretty much exactly what happened. And that like situation where I'm losing by 1 or 2 and I'm just behind turns into a big lead all of a sudden. And I don't know what the final score was, but I did end up getting the win there.
I think it was
And
18-10, right? Yeah, I think it was 18 to 10.
yeah,
Yeah, 18 to 10. Um, yeah, it was soul crushing. It was, and really, I mean, we were, talking on stream, the people watching. I mean, I was really in the driver's seat into that voodoo play. Like I said, as Shane said, it's hard to win games when I think at that point, besides the little squeak damage that Rogue took, almost everyone on my right, your left side just wasn't taking damage. Goblin's flip turn, when he
Yeah.
flips over, does a hot nothing.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
you
Goblin,
know,
injured Goblin. Typically, when injured Goblin gets to activate, things die.
yep,
Is one of the first times ever I've seen flipped Goblin, like, with 10 power come out, throw out like multiple 7 dice attacks with auto incinerates if I do 1 damage, and then he doesn't do 1 damage, and then he does it again and does no damage. And then I glider ram into somebody and they block like a couple, and I'm like, well, there goes my leader.
yeah, yeah. Good night, sweet prince. Right, yeah. And the game plan, I thought was pretty solid. Into Shane, it was just take, pinging my furthest infinity formula with Mystique's leadership, allowing me the freedom to play aggressive. I know Shane is gonna. I really thought I was gonna see traps, so I thought Shane was gonna play this turtle, so I can play aggressive, force traps into some bad positions with Juggernaut. Juggernaut loves eating traps because he can just spend one and take no damage, and then it turns everything off. Um, so it's feeling pretty confident. Gambit almost has an auto push on his bow staff. You got to roll a hit, but you can turn that into a wild and do some really fun stuff. And I think that was really what kind of kept me, keeping the pressure and allowing you for me to get the slight lead. I was never really putting you away until that voodoo play. Voodoo doesn't possess Juggernaut, who was sitting. I was controlling that your home infinity formula, and he had two hammers. So Juggernaut was really sitting pretty, and I was going to score 5 or 6 points that round if you don't do something about it. And Shane made the really smart. I think what a lot of people make the mistake with Voodoo, especially in a situation like this, is they try to attack the person who has the objective to either put some damage on them and get power on Voodoo, hoping that he has enough to possess, or potentially take down the character that has the objectives and possess somebody else. Shane made, and as I was hoping, you want people to attack Juggernaut, especially mystically, because he's got that 5 defense. I'm reducing damage by 1. I'm hoping for no saps and no skulls, which Shane was just very conveniently not rolling those things for me, which was really appreciated. Um, and made the wonderful decision to attack Gambit, to feed Voodoo that power, which I was hoping that he wouldn't see that, but he did. Voodoo gets all the power that he needs. My only hope is that with that priority in the next turn, to get pyrotechnics off, um, and steal a hammer that Venom had, then I can maybe come back. At that point, I think Shane, you scored when you took the 2 hammers and took that point. I think you scored 7, right? I think was something like that. I mean, it was huge, a huge swing in points.
Yeah, it was 5 or 6, and then you ended up
Yeah,
getting just a 1 because Rogue was dead,
right.
and
Yeah,
you just
Rogue.
had one person on the back point.
Right. Yeah, I just pinged the last point with the Mystique leadership, and so my only hope is to either put down Venom or to steal a hammer, and then I can kind of do things a little bit more aggressively. I roll an 8 dice energy attack, just looking for a wild. Just that's all you need, right? That's all. That's all you need. And then my dice betray me. And Venom said, "Oh, that was really cute. Now everyone dies."
Yeah,
And that was
yeah.
that was that was that was the winning turn.
Yep.
You dazed 3 of my characters. Um,
Yeah, Venom
Yeah.
finally puts down Juggernaut. He kills Rogue. He kills Mystique. Um,
Oh, kills Gambit,
or
kills
Gambit, not Rogue.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And Pyro just kind of sits there sad.
Yep.
Um, so it was great, and we lived the dream where Shane, one of us, wanted to make it to the finals, and Shane did it. So let's talk about your finals matchup.
Yeah. So this is the last one. We're on stream again, and this game I really recommend anybody watch this game. It's going to be up on PCN again. Uh, Amazingly, I mean, I kind of like didn't think about. I wasn't paying much attention to everybody else in the tournament once I was like on the ropes, right?
Mm.
So I wasn't paying super close attention to who else was doing well. I just knew Ben was doing well. And flashback, Ben's first opponent on day one was playing Dormammu. After that loss, he proceeded to win 6 straight games from day one and day two, and
Freaking
making his way all the way to the
Hawkers.
finals. So
Just
Phil the younger, um, with his Dark Dimension, I don't have a lot of reps into Dark Dimension,
Yeah,
nor
can
do
can I just say, like, I was super surprised to see Dark Dimension like run as deep as it did.
yeah.
I mean that's just, testament to Phil and his skill with that roster. But like I never thought.
Yeah, and he had like a, and I'm thinking about it a lot, and I will say the other thing from the last game and from Sunday in general that I changed about my stuff is I was taking fallback a little bit more. Well, I mean, I took it every game on Sunday, and I didn't take it once on Saturday. And I took it against you, Ben, specifically to counter the deception play once you deceptioned my character in.
mhm.
And I took fallback again against Phil here, and I the first thing I ask him when we sit down, and I'm because I was looking at his roster, I'm like, so just to be clear, you can't go higher, you can't go wider than 4 characters unless you're at 19 threat, right? And we math it up and we determine, yeah, he if he's 18 or lower, the most characters he's taken is 4. Um, and I was like, okay, and that immediately put a little comfort in me because I knew that at the very least, I know what kind of characters I want to take if we're playing under 19 threat. Counting on the fact that I'm going to have last activation regardless, and characters with throws, right, that are going to run onto those back points maybe and throw his characters off and extend a point lead. And so we roll for Prio, and I believe he gets it, I think. And he picks his extracts because he's got the single extracts and he really wants
Mhm.
those, which means we draw Infinity Formula again, and we play on Scrawl. So a lot of things about this that I wanted to comment on really quick. So first of all, this is Scrawl. It's the finals of the tournament. It's a single extract. It's the last
Ugh.
single extract anybody's ever going to have to play. Um, at least for me, and I'm really happy about that. And but it's a single extract also, which is kind of weird for me against Dormammu. And then it's Infinity Formula. And the thing about this is both are 17. So we're playing at 17. I know he's not going wider than 4. I can go 5 wide. I can take characters that have throws, and I can try to lean into this. So first of all, I take Voodoo because we're playing on a single extract, and that's going to be a really big thing. If he does find that, I have a way to steal it back. Um, I take Green Goblin. I don't take Nova here because I just can't fit it in. I take Mysterio. I take Lizard, and then I'm looking at Doc Ock because he has a throw, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm still affiliated if I splash here, and I think Beast is just better. Like I have Doc Ock's there for the pay to flips and like going 6 wide and stuff. But I'm like, I think I go Beast here, so I take Beast because his throw is a little bit cheaper. He hits a little bit harder. He's got defensive rerolls. I'm like, all right. And we set up. He takes Dormammu, X-23, Heimdall, and Hood. He pairs Hood with Dormammu to heal him throughout the game, and he's got Heimdall and X-23 on the other side. So I take Sinister Traps again because I've been really happy with this card so far. and I outside of rolling nothing against Ben, but and I trap the side that Dormammu's on because I don't want to trap the side with X23 because she's just going to healing factor it up, and getting damage on Dormammu could be good if I do decide to attrition him down if the opportunity arises. Um, I deploy in a way where Mysterio's on one side with I believe it was with Lizard, and on the other side, Goblin and Beast are posted up, and I've got Voodoo right in the middle. Um, and I'm activating Voodoo late in the turn because I want to keep him in the middle until the scroll gets found, at which point he's going to immediately pivot in that direction, regardless of who finds the scroll. So on the first turn, nobody finds the scroll, and on the last activation, Voodoo moves up to the middle and searches for it because you might as well. Doesn't find it. Also on noteworthy on turn one, Beast gets one shot by Dormammu, which was kind of concerning. Um, and yeah, that didn't make me super happy. But we work through it, and on turn two again, nobody finds the scroll. Beast manages to kind of get away, thanks to I believe it was thanks to fallback. Um, and we keep searching for that scroll, trading shots here and there. Um, and finally, I think on turn three, I say, "All right, Lizard's gonna find the scroll now." I say that out loud, and everyone's like, "Okay," and I'm like, "I'm not joking. No, Lizard's gonna find the scroll." And I walk up on the right side, and I search for the scroll, and Lizard finds it, and everybody kind of loses their mind, and it was really funny. Um, and then immediately, Doctor Voodoo pivots that direction. Um, we somehow we daze Heimdall. Somehow we kill him. Um, and X23 is kind of running around with her head cut off, and he has to start pivoting to that side of the board with Dormammu. He kind of has to make a tough choice, and he does. He makes the right choice. He starts moving over there. And Lizard is just kind of hiding behind a size 4 building, and trolling Heimdall and such. And he walks over and he makes a smart play. He can't see Heimdall, or he can't see Lizard with the scrawl because he's behind the size 4. But Phil, smart man he is, he took Smash, and he smashes the size 4 building with a size 5 Dormammu. And not only is he getting a bunch of dice, but he can see Lizard now, and he one shots Lizard. Dormammu was kind of scary this game. And then he doesn't attack again. He moves, and then he picks up that scrawl. And at this point, Voodoo has been, chilling out, throwing out attacks, getting skulls. So he's got a lot of power. And the big scary thing happens. Voodoo possesses Dormammu. But Phil was very prepared for this. Phil had mission objective. So he passes the dropped token over onto X23, passes it off to the running back, and X23 bolts to the other side of the board pretty quickly. But at this point, the score I realized was I think it was 11-6, and it was like we were in round 5. And I'm doing math, and I'm like, as long as I hold the 2 points on the right side, I'm gonna go up to 13, and then he goes up to 10. And then if I keep that exact situation, even if with him with the scrawl and him having the 2 points on the other side, he goes up to 14 and I go up to 15, and I'll win. And I don't know if he didn't like spot that, because he kind of did run to the other side of the board with Dormammu once he got the scrawl just to keep it away from me. And I kind of knew, because and then Heimdall dazes in the power phase because of Dormammu. He has too much power, so he takes a damage. And then flipped Goblin explodes X23, and all he has left is Dormammu and Hood on the other side of the board, and I'm guaranteed to get the 2 points. But just for the funny sake of it, I have I have Voodoo walk over and possess Dormammu for a second time, because you don't get to possess Dormammu multiple times a game very often. And I grab the scrawl, and I end up winning 17 to I believe it was 12, or 17 to 12, and or 17 to 11 it was, because Dormammu was possessed. And that's the finals, and it was a crazy game. I think it was I felt really good the entire day, and I thought I was playing at a pretty good level. Probably some of the best I've played in a long time, if not like ever.
Hmm.
Um, and Phil was an amazing opponent. He was a super fun guy to play with, really goofy, really funny. And he just played Dormammu so well. And
Yeah.
you don't see that super often. So huge shout out to him. A lot of people are really
Hmm.
excited to see Spider Foes winning, but I mean, I think Dark Dimension making it the finals is even more of an accomplishment. So again, props to him.
Yeah, it was great to be able to see two really underrepresented teams, be in the finals and playing at such a high caliber level. It was really fun. I know a lot of people enjoyed that matchup, and like I said, it's always good to see teams that don't get a lot of love get some more love, and um, yeah, it was great. And so I ended up taking third, which was um, you know not terrible. Um, so we rep Crisis Point, showed up at Everwinter and did our thing and slapped some people around, and we had a great time.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had a good performance
Hmm.
coming in from New York.
Yeah, they got to watch. It's the Rochester Shark Tank.
There you go.
There's two sharks, three
Two
sharks.
shark,
And
two sharks.
there's like four or
There's
five
a few sharks.
sharks. Yeah,
Yeah, there's quite a
yeah.
few good
Yeah,
players here.
yeah, yeah. It's still growing.
Yeah.
Still
It's still
growing is
growing.
the thing. Um, but yeah, so we are coming up here on almost 2 hours of recording. So I guess we can close it out here, guys, unless you have anything else that you want to talk about. Any shouts out you want to give or anything?
Just quick shout out to PCN Professional Casual Network for streaming the whole event. They were amazing. They did a fantastic job. And shout out to Brian Watson for running the event and Matt Alex for judging and helping out. You guys rock. And shout out to all my opponents. You guys were a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. Ditto that. And Shane's not allowed to use voodoo against me anymore. So shout out to that. So
That's all right, Shane.
so
You can borrow my voodoo.
There we go.
oh,
There
that's
we
the
go.
workaround. We found the workaround. We found the
Unless it's against me. If it's against me, then you have to borrow Ben's voodoo.
Okay.
workaround.
Nice. Yeah, because I don't want to buy voodoo. Here's the thing.
There you
What?
go.
But do you have Hood
We've
already?
No.
Well, you should. I mean, that box is really good, Shane. I
It is
mean,
a
I
great
feel like
box.
you should get it. That's like
It
arguably
is
like the
amazing.
best box for your money that anybody can get, I think. But yeah, thanks everybody for sticking around for almost 2 hours and listening to us talk about Marvel Crisis Protocol. We really enjoy doing this. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button on whatever podcast app you're listening to us on, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever have you. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well. Leave a like and a comment. It helps out a lot. If you guys want to help us out even further, consider becoming either a YouTube channel member or checking out our Patreon and supporting us through there. If you're feeling in a generous mood. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see y'all again in the next one.